We're with Denis Ong. He is with the Malaysia Budget Hotel Association. It is something that's been formed fairly recently, 2 years ago, Dennis?
5 years ago.
5 years ago. And obviously reflecting a need for such a group as, I suppose, as that sector grows. Tell us about what happened that led to the need for this association and what's been going on the last 5 years.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you very much, Charles. Uh, 5 years ago, the ministry decided to form this association called Malaysia Budget Hotel Association to actually cater to the development of the budget hotels operators in this country, because at most times, traditionally, this sector is not been taken care of in inverted comma scale, because people always talk about budget hotel as cheap, filthy, no standards, and lack of safety facilities and so forth. But eventually, right now, I think the trends is changing, and a lot of people right now actually wanted to do their own travel. They like to travel on their own in a place which is decently cheap, with basic facilities and so on, so they can sort of stretch the money and the value here to actually go on more shopping and spend on other things. And one sector that's worth actually mentioning here is the backpacking markets, which is really emerging right now enormously for the past 2 years. And with the development of the low-cost carriers and there's flying in people from all over Southeast Asia, and with better connectivity with AirAsia and so forth, and the budget airlines, and I think eventually this is actually growing market right there. So our association actually sort of safeguard the members as to that they follow a set of rules as to the safety measures. Make sure that every tourist that's coming in here are safe, and then they spend the money and they live and with good experiences and so forth. Yeah.
Of course, something that made news recently was AirAsia, largest low-cost carrier in Southeast Asia, announcing they're opening low-cost hotels. Could you tell us a little bit about what they are doing?
Yeah, I think just recently, if I'm not wrong, about a month ago, AirAsia launched their hotel brand name under the tunehotels.com, and eventually they marketed very much on an online mechanism, okay, which allows people to actually book online at a very so-called budget cost. With the emergence of these so-called AirAsia coming into the budget hotel sector, and we see a very positive trend as far as we're concerned. I think the market is big enough to actually cater to everyone. And AirAsia being the leader in the budget tourism, which actually drives in a lot of revenues for transportation, for entertainment, and bringing the people in from all parts of the world and so forth. And I think they are the sort of market leaders for us. So I think we welcome AirAsia. We welcome Tune Hotel in the vicinity to actually move on, and actually it is an added advantage for us. Yeah.
You yourself own and operate a hotel. Tell us what's the name of it and a little bit about it.
Okay, I actually operate two hotels right in Bukit Bintang, which is the center of the city. We cater basically very much to backpackers market, and one is called a Green Heart Lodge that was formed about 4 years ago. And after which another one was Trekker Lodge that was about 1.5 years ago, catering to the needs of the budget travelers, in this case very much the backpackers, who are predominantly people from Europe, people from Australia and New Zealand, who does not mean they do not have money to travel, but which means they really wanted to sort of have a different feel and style of travel, because they want to come in and feel your local custom, they want to drink local coffee, they want to have breakfast with the local people. They want to drink local beer, and they're not really interested in the so-called the five-star luxury sort of things. But not that they can't afford it, because it's just that they want to have a different style of travel. And by doing so, they stretch their dollars and they can spend on other things. And you'd be surprised, people who are on holidays, for example, they can stay 4 or 5 days in a budget hotel like us. And then on the last 2 days, they said, oh, I'm going to go to Sheraton and I'm going to stay there. And then sort of wrap up the trip and things like that. And you'll be quite surprised that the people who are actually coming to stay here are actually professionals and students. Professionals, I'm talking about accountants, lawyers and stuff. And at once, I would just like to share an opinion, an experience with you is we actually have an astronaut actually staying in our place.
From U.S., from the United States?
No, from England actually. On that day itself, actually, I was just sort of normal gesture, we just say, greetings to our guests and so forth, and then it happens that they want to check out. So then I took out the list, and then I saw her and said, and they go, yeah, you're an restaurant. Then he looked at me and said, is there a problem? I said, no, there's no problem. But
Your hotel is regular modern architecture, simple design, small rooms.
yeah, it's very simple. It's very straightforward. We tap on the fact that we use the pre-war building, and then we convert it into budget hotels. We use pre-war building. Of course, there's two definitions for it. Number one, of course, the starting cost is not as expensive as you build at normal hotels. And number two, backpackers and travelers like people like who they like to see the local flavor. They just want to see how old buildings are. They want to see a spiral staircase, this sort of stuff. And we decorate it with a very much local flavors, and then we put drawings on the walls. We light it up in a certain way. We have a free internet service which for everyone who's on the move right now. There are people who can't decide where they want to go tomorrow. They could be here today, and tomorrow they wanted to go back to London, or they want to go to Bali and all that stuff. So
Private bath. Private bath.
We offer rooms with private bath. We call it ensuite. We offer rooms with shed bath, private room with shed bath, and we also offer rooms who are on a budget scale on dormitories.
Typically, how do these budget hotels receive their bookings?
Surprisingly, for backpacker sector, of course, budget hotels comprises a lot of market segmentation. What we're talking about for backpackers, we receive quite a good sum of the bookings from the internet and the word of mouth. And actually, that's the best advertisement, the word of mouth. So, of course, once you are okay with your rating and so forth, because of the travelers, they share their views and so forth, and then you got listed in a normal, what they call the Lonely Planet, the Bible, the Traveler's Bible book, then you're pretty much all set, because technically, if the Lonely Planet recommend you and sort of, there's a certain criteria and standard that you actually met up with them. We are quite fortunate that for two of our establishment, we are listed in there, and then we move forward on this. Yeah.
Typically, how many rooms in a budget hotel in Malaysia?
I would say on an average of 20 to 25 rooms on a budget hotel in Malaysia. It can eventually go up to 80, 100 rooms. It does not constrain you on the size of it, but technically, I would say it's just very much the facility that you give and the price that you're actually selling. So it's not so much dependence on the quantity of the rooms or the number of rooms. Yeah.
And what's a typical average room night rate?
Along the city center rate, I would say it will hovers around 60 to 65 ringgit a night, which would translate into, I think, about 20 plus dollars a night. Air-conditioned room, comfortable beds.
Private bath?
Private bath, yeah, exactly, that sort of thing.
And in the countryside?
In the countryside, then the phenomenon is a little bit different again, because, again, people who like to prefer to the beach, they will stay in the chalet, they will stay in maybe some of the homestays, and that in itself, it also, I would think that should be about 50, 60 ringgit a night.
Even if it's by the beach or in a nice natural setting?
Yes. Obviously, in Malaysia itself, actually, if you were to go to Pulau Perhentian, it's a very much sought after so-called backpackers' heaven. And backpackers just go there and relax. And the room rate there would probably start on a low season, probably, I don't know, maybe about 30 ringgit a night or something like that. And then they move on. Yeah.
You were describing the demographics of your guests to your hotel, and they included all sorts of international groups, except I didn't hear very much Asians.
Yes, Asian, of course, there is. Again, the categorization of the budget hotels, again, what we are emphasizing on right now for the two establishment I'm in right now, is actually catering very much to the European markets, which are the backpackers. And of course, locally, there are also traditionally run budget hotels who you go and check in, and there's a guy sitting in front of the counter, and he looks up at you and say, yeah, and he goes, I want a room. I said, okay, let me show you the room. He opens it up and say, this is what I have. What do you think? You want it?
40 ringgit. Half price.
Like that, So traditionally run establishment cater very much to the local market. But what I'm trying to say is that there is a tendency to improve. And I think ICT play a very important part, which what we are very much emphasizing on. As right now, I'm also sitting on the head of ICT development in this association.
ICT, I lost you there.
Is information technology, very much with the web development, the web bookings, and so forth. So traditionally, those operators still prefer to sit and wait the clients to come in. I think this will be something which is not going to be very positive in the future. So I think everyone should adapt IT. They should take the opportunity to sort of improve the facilities every year, keep it clean, upgrade it a little bit. So there's always a changing trend of things. Rather than people come in 5 years ago and come in right now, it's even worse than 5 years ago. So
If they understood the opportunity to make more money, I think they probably get on with it.
Yeah, I think that's very much boils down to the mindset problem. So a lot of people who are in the budget hotel business are actually family run. And when they're family run and they would like to pass it to the next of kin, and the next of kin don't see any future in there because of the way they operated for the past 20, 30 years. It's like that. And youngsters right now, they like to take on trendy things. They like to, and predominantly in the Asian context, as you know how it is, when your parents tell you to do something, you just politely say no. You would not say no, Dad, you are wrong. I want to show you how it's going to be done. So in that context, so a lot of establishment are sort of fading away at the moment.
I think the fellow who owns the Shangri-La said that to his dad.
I didn't know that. I don't want to make any comments on that.
Lastly, I still didn't get the answer to the question. What I was after is, do Asian young people not backpack like to the degree that Western young people backpack?
Obviously not to the degree of where the Westerners are backpacking right now. And that's exactly the same question which I posted in the panel just now, is to see the emerging market of China and India and Southeast Asia and everyone else. How do you actually change the mindset to actually eventually tell them to backpack rather than to follow a tour and let them show everything around? So I think eventually this will take time. But based on the trend itself, there is a growing tendency of people who are sort of picking up the habit of backpacking. So this is a good news, which is right now, because I can just show you give you an example. For example, when I was putting up my first establishment about 4 years ago, I was the only one on the street. And now we have 12 on the streets. So everybody is trying to bank in the foreign exchange money and all that. But eventually it's good because when it comes competition, then people will start to improve. When you are always by yourself and you monopolize the whole thing, you say, I don't care, I'm going to be full all the time. So you don't care, you don't want to improve. So I think eventually the competition coming is great. And then there are guest houses where along the stretch which are really nicely done, and then it's great. It's great. If you have a chance, you should just bring it around the street of Bukit Bintang and you can see how it's done. It's phenomenal. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Charles.